Welcome to the Powered by Factum podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Fuller, and I've got the one and only David Zapata in the studio again. And we are going to have a wonderful conversation about innovation today. Something that I think our industry, the life insurance industry, might be the most notorious industry for lack of innovation. This is a really old industry we're in. I love that fact because it brings a lot of certainty to the big wide world. But with that, I feel like some of these insurance carriers, insurance agents too, have lacked the ability to innovate inside this industry, which I think is a big problem and something we've really been focusing on. And so we have what's called our Factum high performing organization model. And we built an acronym for Factum. And so the F stands for focus on success. The A is authentic leadership. The C is compelling vision. The T is training and coaching. The U is unrelenting innovation. And the M is mutually owned. And so today we're going to be talking about the unrelenting innovation. And this conversation, David, I have so much fun spending time with you because some of the things that we have built, are building, when you get in that creative space, that's where, to me, it takes it out of like a work environment and it's just pure fun. I feel like we're sometimes a couple kids in an office and we're trying to figure some of these things out, and it's totally a creative space, but we're having fun building things that are enhancing the ability for our agents to serve people at a higher and better level.
Thank you for having me again. I love having these conversations. I was fortunate enough to start my professional career, have an engineering background. I worked for 12 years in corporate America in the jet engine business. One of the things that I was lucky to observe in such a technology-driven, tippy-toe, military development, things that we don't even know about, made in a basement, right, was that for 200,000 employees in the company, the one thing that was a common thread was a mentality, was a culture where the idea that if things do not exist, but we need them to move the dial forward with technology, with progress, we will invent them. And that may seem trivial, but that went all the way from the design engineer that was doing a little bolt design, all the way to the executives making decision in front of an airline to deliver a set of engines. And I think observing that and coming to Factum, observing our mentality, our philosophy, our values, there's no doubt in my mind that this needs to be an anchor for how we do things, how we develop tools, thoughts, content, and how we serve, more importantly, and impact our community. One of the things that you mentioned there about insurance companies, I think the reason why, and again, it's a good thing, the nature of the business itself is conservative, right? We need products that will be here, that we're paying dividends for 130, 140, and 150 years through wars, depressions, financial crisis, right? To be able to exist in that environment, conservatism, certainty, like you said, are important values. And guess what? To have those for our kids, our grandkids, 200 years from now, we want to continue to have that. But I don't see innovation as the complete opposite of conservatism or continuity. I actually see it as a complement. And the reason I see it as a complement is because we shall not forget who we are, where we come from, and our values. And that's at the core of why I think this conversation for Factum is so exciting. We are anchoring the nature of our business, our understanding of why whole life, the infinite banking concept, are such crucial foundation pieces for financial life, for wealth building, with the idea that as we have those values and those principles clear, and we don't forget who we are, where we come from, we also can look to the future and create a future that is not here yet, that we need to unfold.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that's so fascinating about working with you, David, is your background. Because it's I don't know how many people have the same unique abilities, for one, but your background with where you've come from to this point that we're at currently. Because your ability to create things with a certain style and visual effect that's been extremely welcoming to all the people that we work with, because we get amazing compliments on, even down to PowerPoints we have. Whoa, how'd you guys get these slides? It looks so aesthetically pleasing, which I think is very good for marketing and drawing attention to things. But your understanding of money in general, I would say, is pretty unrivaled. Like when we go to high profile seminars and trainings for our industry, your mind is always one of the brightest in the room, hands down. But then your engineering background, which is your ability to take an idea, hey, we have this idea, and to actually build it is the third piece in there that makes it so interesting, which is why I think the collaboration between you and I with ideas and how to actually bring them into the light. And then from there, it's always an unrelenting innovation conversation. When we build something, it's always cool. This is the worst it's ever going to be. We immediately go back into work to make it be volume 2, volume 3, which is going to be even better 6 months, 8 months, 12 months from now.
Yeah.
So it's a never ending commitment, but you have to have the right people on board that are okay to do that. It's never finished, right? Like the iPhone keeps coming out with newer, better, sleeker, and that's coming from an Android guy, right? It's always they're always looking to improve it, right? But it's one of our core values that we really embrace here.
Yeah.
And I think you made a good point. It's not that the insurance company or the insurance world has done a bad job with that. We love the certainty that they bring. But one of the things that we've realized is the average life or the average age for an insurance agent right now is like 65. That does pose a potential problem. And a lot of the conversations we hear have been the same conversation for 30 years. And we've changed some things to really, I would say, simplify it, but help people visually see things too, that helps them connect the dots in a different way that has allowed our client base to understand, I would say, insurance at a much higher level.
And thank you for the kind words, by the way. I'm going to have the editor cut that piece and play it in the morning from my phone to jazz myself up when I wake up. But on a serious note, think about that. So I love that you feel that way about collaboration. And in a similar way, because our cultures, our value, I feel the same way about what you bring to the table when we collaborate with other people on our team. The point here is this. We are anchoring this conversation and innovation in beliefs. And our belief, number one, the faith that better, more can show up if we unfold it. And we do that by putting our heads together. We talk about the hive mind in our business, right? I am convinced, you say this in a way that I think it resonated with me quite a bit. 1 + 1 is 11.
Yeah.
But more important than that is not just the abundance, but you have to have faith that when you and I put our heads together, the thoughts, the ideas, the products that will come out of that will always be better than what I could do on my own. And from that perspective, there's no competition, there's none of the culture we see around our business, but instead there's collaboration, creativity, co-generation. I think from that is where you can actually genuinely serve people on their best interest with the most creative ideas. And that is no difference between you and I, as it is for Factum and, for example, One America. We co-generate with an insurance carrier that has the conservatism, the brilliant, imagine the thousands of people in that building that sit there, the actuaries, the leadership, that have incredible ideas on how to create these products, how to make them guaranteed, how to do all the things we love about them. And then if we co-generate by bringing our values, our perspective, the way we communicate and connect with others, and show them the connection of those beautiful products to more stability in their financial life, we all are creating value for the community we serve. So I think the innovation that we're talking about is rooted in principles which advances the opportunity to move people into action, which is what we want. So again, this conversation, like you said, it's been like this, we continue, but more importantly, it should never stop. Our culture should always be one that once we arrive at a point, there's no arrival syndrome. Yeah. But instead, we start asking questions. How could we make this better? How could we make this more relatable? How could we make this more impactful? That's how we get a better future in 10 years that we can ever see.
And which is why it goes into the acronym in Factum, right? It's truly one of our guiding principles here. It has to be a major part of your conversation so that when people are coming to work with us, they know what they see now is literally the worst it'll ever be. Yeah. As good as some of our stuff is, because we do invite other agents and agencies out to our trainings that we do, our live ones twice a year. And we had a number of people at our last fall training, which is where we unveil all of our systems, our processes, a lot of the new projects we've been working on. We call it the Work on the Business training. And some of the feedback we get from these trainings people have never seen some of the stuff that we're building right now. And it's something that gets me very excited because we're so passionate about the life insurance business that we want it to keep, one, perpetually going, but we need to attract younger, stronger, good leaders in this industry and then equip them with the right tools to go do what they need to do at a very high level. And so let's talk about some of the things that we have innovated here.
Yeah.
Where would you like to start? Because there's a whole list of these. We're going to have to do a lot of episodes on this one.
I think one of the more meaningful ideas is the power of collaboration. So let's talk about, and I'll just kick it off, but several months, years now, I think at this point, you and I independently have created a policy portfolio for our families, right? You have so many policies on you, your wife, your kids, etc. Same for me. And we've been tracking things without knowing what to track that is meaningful to drive more clarity on what we're doing for the purpose of how do we grow a more effective portfolio. We know the reasons why we do it, right? It's clear to us why whole life, why infinite banking, of course. But to draw more clarity with a KPI or with a particular metric is not clear. And you have been tracking what happens on a monthly basis on your cash values. And based on that observation, you said, Americans don't think in terms of years. They think in terms of month. That's their duration. They're thinking about their financial life. They think about mortgage payments, car payments, monthly paychecks or biweekly paychecks. But we have a framework that we're talking about whole life and what happens in the mechanics inside the policy, your access to cash on a yearly basis. And we're missing the beat, the rhythm that Americans have that is monthly.
Yeah.
You brought that single idea to me and that exploded into a whole world of opportunities and ideas.
Yeah. So let's talk about how that one came to be, because I've been attending the Nelson Nash Institute for years now. I love being a part of that group. That's where any book you've heard on infinite banking or bank on yourself, all of those have stemmed from Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. That is the original source, and that's where I'd recommend going to get your information. So obviously I wanted to be a part of the Nelson Nash Institute, and I would go there and I'd hear very, very good individuals that I looked up to say, but your policies are compounding or growing every day. I'm like, really, every day? So what I started doing is I would log into One America's website, go check my account values, and I checked it every day. And it never moved until the 31st day. And then I noticed the values changed, and I was like, oh, okay, it looks like it's changing monthly. So I literally just copied that, pasted it onto a Word doc, and I did that for 4 or 5 months. And then I started subtracting the last month from the previous month and looking at how much cash I had in the policy. And so the oldest policy I did this on is 9 years old now. And there's about $70,000 of cash value in that policy. And it's growing about $412 a month income tax free. When I started seeing that, I was like, oh my gosh, how much cash would I have to leave at a commercial bank in a liquid safe environment to yield me that number net on a guaranteed basis? It was astronomical.
Yes.
So then, this is when we were on that same path, started putting all my policies into an Excel spreadsheet and tracking this monthly. And then the portfolio of policies I have, it's growing thousands of dollars every month. So is yours.
Yeah.
Completely net with no noise in our life. So when I saw this, one, I wanted to make sure, am I looking at this right? So we called the insurance carrier. We asked the actuaries, are we looking at this right? If I tell someone this is happening, I'm not going to get in trouble, right? They said, no, that's exactly what's going on. Holy cow. So I sent it out to 5 of my larger clients. I said, hey, just FYI, I've been tracking your policies monthly. Your policy cash values are growing XYZ. And it was the monthly conversation that shifted their perspective. And they said, oh my gosh, how much more can I put in right now? So many of my clients started doing that. And it's because Americans don't think in annual time frames. So when we're looking at annual illustrations, there's nothing wrong with that. We still do that. But the magic and the understanding is going to happen on a monthly basis because of the way we think and the way our society is. Everything we do is monthly. Our mortgage is not $24,000 a year, it's $2,000 a month. So why are we looking at policy values on an annual basis, not a monthly? As soon as we made that connection, it changed a lot of conversations for us, including our own. That got me personally very excited because that all adds into my passive income tracker. I don't know what you call your cash values, but it's extremely passive. It's incredibly quiet and it's guaranteed. That's a part of my portfolio I don't have to worry about. That's always working for me 24/7 in the background.
I stick to the bank's terminology, an improvement to my income statement.
Yes.
Just so most people that hear that don't understand what it is, but they love it. So I call it that.
Which is brilliant, right?
Brilliant. Absolutely. And again, you brought that conversation to me and I had to go home and think about that. Oh my God, this is incredibly powerful. Yet we didn't invent anything. Like, this is rooted in beliefs again. Like, we are not creating it. We're standing on the shoulder of giants and unfolding new things that are already here, right? We're just making them shine through different light for others to see, right? When you put it in terms like that, then what's the next step? Hey, we need to start just tracking these things to understand what's happened before and then try to understand the trend. Because the part that I was missing, for example, in mine, I was tracking these things, but every time the number changed, I would override the number that I had on my table. I had a static table. I wasn't copying month to month. So for the last 6 months, a year that I was doing this, I was missing the trend that was going in front of my eyes. I was just getting excited that my cash values were larger. You brought that to me, and I started, obviously, with my love of spreadsheets, creating the craziest spreadsheet in the world and tracking what was happening month to month. And I have now, and it's fascinating to me to see the effect of me putting premium in my policies and accelerating that growth.
Yeah.
That was the KPI, the critical piece that I needed to see to understand that the correlation of and I knew this intuitively. Nelson talks about this, premium is a solution. But when I saw that, my commitment and my conviction skyrocketed. Yeah. And the way I talk to my clients now about this, the way I can show them, hey, this is what's happening. And we're not talking about an investment. We're talking about a savings environment. If you can use your savings environment to strengthen your capital, you strengthen your savings and the rate of growth of those savings, there's no vehicle I've ever seen, Kyle, that does something like this. Thousands of dollars on a quiet net basis. I don't have to call the insurance company every week to make sure that they're working hard to make that happen. And I don't have to do anything to accelerate the rate of that growth next year and the year after that. And guess what? The most efficient year is going to be the last year of my life.
Right.
Meaning the airplane is getting more and more efficient every mile we fly.
If we keep our premiums the exact same, which is crazy unrealistic because we're always going to want more of this asset as we grow, we need a stronger foundation. The efficiency of that yield every year increases. Even if the same premium outlay is going in, it's going to, because that volume of interest on the back end. And so I love that you just brought that up. But the other piece too that I think was so important is whenever we're looking at illustrations, it's always a future projection. What we're documenting has already happened. None of it's hypothetical. And our audience has really enjoyed that because then there's no guessing games. It's just like, here's what our systems are doing monthly right now, as in the last 30 days. There is no, it's projected to do this over time. We can run some assumptions on that, but I think people have appreciated the authenticity that we've brought through that conversation. There is no, your policies should be at this point in the future. It is, your policies are growing at this rate every month right now. Yes. And I think that was the connection that a lot of people needed to see, that we have gotten tremendous feedback. And is it a lot of work to track that monthly?
Incredible amounts of work.
So I kept mine on a Kyle spreadsheet version, and you helped me upgrade it with your engineer mind, and it's beautiful now. Now we have that as a template that we give to our agents and clients. Once again, going back to unrelenting innovation, that's the oldest and worst it'll ever be, because what we're building currently is a system to get those automatically from the insurance carrier we've been building our relationship with. Mm-hmm. That, for our clients, for us as agents, is going to save so much time and energy, but also help bless our clients, because if it helps them connect better with the asset they own, because it's now in the time frame they understand, do you think they're going to want more of less of that in the future?
Much more.
Way more. We had a multi-million-dollar real estate investor at one of our recent wealth seminars. When she saw the monthly, she said, I work with a lot of people, and your whole life policy portfolios is growing more than a lot of people's real estate portfolios. And our whole life's policies are not investments. That's a savings environment put at the foundation because of the guarantees. Think about that. And I think when people understand the monthly conversation, it really opens up an entire world for them.
Yeah. That's the power of putting heads together, right? So we identify this new opportunity. We have the relationship we're building with the carrier. We have the relationship we have with our community, so we can have open conversations about the things we're exploring, the things we're observing. Now, add a layer to that. What if we go back to some of our principle, some of our core conversations, some of our content, like the wealth pyramid? And at the bottom of that foundation, we know that the two key components to starting the journey of financial growth in the healthiest way is to have financial education, which we have a ton of content for. If you haven't gone to factomfinancial.com, you should. But the second component to that is financial awareness.
Yeah.
Think about that. And that awareness is 360. You need to be aware of what's inside between the two ears, your ideas, inside of what's happening in your balance sheet, in your financial statements, and aware of what's happening around you. A way then we can then take this thought of becoming aware of what's happening in the policies is to introduce technology in the conversation to add more leverage. What if we could produce an arena where it becomes a full contact sport where not only the agent is interfacing with this information, but the client itself, the community itself can go and take a look and see what's happening with their portfolio policies, how that interacts with their liquidity, their cash flow, how that increases their net worth, how leveraged they are, how savings are working and what ratios, right?
Yeah.
How their whole financial picture is advancing, which is now the project we're engaged in. We have a prototype. Now we're going to move that forward from the worst version it was to where we are to where we're going.
An entire cash flow dashboard is what we're calling it. And we've had some agents come out that are serious producers that have seen it, that really want their hands on it. It is still in a prototype version, but it is so effective. You and I have been tinkering with it, breaking it, finding the bugs. What's good when you want it for yourself, right? Because you and I both use versions right now called a beta version still. But for me, it's brought me so much peace and clarity to pull it up, to look at this thing and say, we are dialed in. The awareness is there. The protection's there. It tracks so many things, but this goes back to one of your unique abilities about the visually compelling part of it too. Because I've seen spreadsheets that'll probably track some similar stuff, but they're so boring to look at, right? You have to also produce a product like the iPhone that looks good, it feels good, you want to hold it in your hand, you want to use it, right? A lot of systems I've seen in the past that track net worth and cash flow, everything else, the visual component is missing, and that's a huge problem. When I see the cash flow dashboard and some of the dials that are on there with the colors, I can tell in 3 seconds if I'm over leveraged, if I need to adjust something, where my noise level's at versus my risk tolerance for my investing strategy versus there's so many things that in a quick glance, I know, do I need to slow down somewhere or speed it up somewhere else because of the visualness that it brings. When we pulled that dashboard up at the last wealth seminar we did, you could feel it in the room that everyone in there was, whoa, how do I get my hands on that, right? And so just going back to our value of the unrelenting innovation, there are systems we're building into that to create very automated responses on it. Because right now, a lot of it's manual. You have to want it bad enough to manually input. Yeah. For us, dozens and dozens of policies. The average person's not going to do that. So we've got to get the functions down that'll feed it directly from the carrier. Once that's automated, man, that thing is going to be amazing.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the iPhone. Before this, I wanted to bring a couple of Steve Jobs quotes, but I'll read one and I'll tell you the reason I want to share this. He said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect with in the future. You have to trust in something. And I say this because I think we need to recognize that some of the most important things in the culture at Factum is that we have an environment where it's safe to explore, to experiment, to break things, so we can have the faith that what we're working on will lead to creation and we'll be able to connect the dots back. I take your idea. We have a collaboration. We go back and forth. In a world where nothing is important, we have to define what is. So days of liquidity, for example, savings rate, leverage. It's arbitrary. It's our choice to choose what to focus our eyes on, right? There's other things that other people may focus on. But for the principles we have, for the education we have, we know that those are things that correlate to healthy financial stability in families, businesses. We bring that. Could be wrong, could fail. People may not resonate with it. But we have a culture where innovation is an activity, is a value. And we embrace that not just from you and I, but everyone that wants to bring things in the table to continue to advance our conversation, advance the impact we have, is welcome to come, test, validate, and then launch new and more value to our community. So I think that I'm grateful that is part of our culture here at Factum.
Yeah, It's what really sets us apart for one, and it just adds to the community. At the core of it, we're a group of individuals who are striving for abundance in all areas of life. And when we go to that occupation area, this is why neither one of us talks about retirement, because what we're living, you think about guys like Steve Jobs and true industry changers. They committed to something much larger than themselves, and there's no real end date for that, right? And that's what we're building here, is an environment where, like you said, that we can have other agents come participate in this abundance, but bring contrary views and ideas that would actually be accepted, looked at, talked about, built, and implemented. That's the difference, right? I came from an old agency where at a certain level, the answers to our questions were, you don't need to know that. There was no room to grow.
Yeah.
But here we've made it infinite through our compensation model, everything else. There's no way that you could, outgrow this environment we're creating. And that's the purpose of it. It has to be a continually innovated environment where people can come in, participate, use something and say, what if we tweaked this? And the change can actually happen to adapt to someone else that has a better idea than you and I. Yeah. We welcome that space, and you coined that frame, hive mind. That's what it is. To bring other people in, especially outsiders who are not in our industry. We've got a lot of good feedback from clients, right? I want to see this. You should show it like that. The consumers will tell you a lot about what you need in your business, which is valuable information that you sometimes don't get as an agent being so close to the asset or the process. Yeah. So the community with the innovation, to me, is just so much fun. It feels like we're not even working. We probably need to time block more to have more creative space on that, but we're pretty insanely busy right now. But it's when we get to that, in your office, my office, the conference room, and we're just exploring ideas, man, that time goes by quick.
It's adult Legos. We're playing with Legos.
100%.
No doubt. Yeah.
And it is so much fun. Yeah. And so, I think you just nailed that. And so we do a couple live trainings every single year that we'd encourage other agents to come out and participate. We're an open book. We'll show you everything that we're doing. There's no secrets here. If you can take something that we've built, go apply it to your business, we welcome that. Please go do it. We'll show anything that we've got here. We just want to connect with more people who are like-minded, who are mission-driven, who want to participate in something bigger than themselves. And so you can always go onto our website, factumfinancial.com, check out our resources page, click on Become an Agent, or just reach out to us through Facebook. We're on all the social media platforms. Ultimately, we'd love to connect with people in person. So if you can get to one of our spring or fall trainings, we do those live, they're masterminds. We'd love to have you come out and see what we're doing to hopefully enhance your business as an insurance agent.